It was pandemonium. It was truly a riot. You didn't stay in one place. There was movement, a whirlpool of people, color, smells of things burning, leaves falling off of trees from people bumping into them. It was like a war.
But why did it happen? Why was there an uprising all of a sudden?
There was an uprising because in our heads there was a catalog, a picture book of friends lost, not lost to life, but the quality of life. In mental institutions, maimed, beaten, fearful, no longer the person they were, now a different kind of person, maimed psychologically.
Okay. What was it like to be gay in 69?
In 1969, to be gay was a dichotomy. On one hand, there was a great gay culture, strong, rich, and powerful, and contributory. But on the other hand, uh, there was the public ignoring of gay life, the facts of gay life, where some of these cultural, with some of these cultural effervescence, where it comes from. The people that made this, some of the people that made this, were totally ignored about it. It was a dark city, a film noir city. Our lives were like film noirs, exciting. No one complained about that. No one complained about very much. But there was a lot to complain about. You just didn't complain to your friends because your friends were experiencing the same thing. What was the point of complaining?
You once told me that you.
When the raid occurred, I knew what to expect. I'd been in raids. We were trained to be in raids. And experience was helpful. So I knew the drag queens would come out to cheers. I knew the people that were shamed would come out afterwards. I knew that the youth would be going to jail. They would come out too. I heard the cheers. I saw glimpses of the drag queens. It was like it always was. Uh, but as I passed the paddy wagon, there was at the end of the paddy wagon a cop brutally pushing a drag queen into the back of the truck. She kicked him back hard. He wasn't ready for it. He wasn't prepared. His anger was immense. He pushed her into the paddy wagon and beat her. You could hear her moans. You could hear the groans. We grimaced, but she had kicked him. I didn't realize that was the first sign. This was not going to be like any other raid. He told us,
So your thoughts were with your friends, and then you had the feeling we have to unite. So your thoughts were with your friends who suffered so much.
yes.
And then you had the feeling we need to unite.
Well, here was another victim. Actually was thinking that day because Judy Garland had died and everything of friends whom liked her, who weren't able or just didn't want to come to the funeral anymore. I did go. But to see that queen, the way she struggled, how undignified, how unhuman she looked in her attempt to elude him, in her attempt to defy him, in her attempt to stop the humiliation, it only got worse for her. And I think we all felt that. It just got worse for us when we do these things. And if that's the case, let's just do them. Let's just do it. And I think everybody felt that way. Like, let's all be like her. Let's all let them get it over with. Let it be in the papers. Let it be evident, physically, with blood, what we were suffering.
Did you feel stronger for the first time you were united?
Oh, I felt very strong. The crowd was a consensus. No one objected. No one tried to calm us down. And usually in a riot, I've been in other riots as an observer, they do. No one did. Even the gays that did not like us, the gays in suits, the A gays, they did not try to stop us. They egged us on, and some of them joined the fight. Whenever a new person entered the fight, you knew it. Well, they kept entering it. We kept getting stronger. It was like blood transfusions, new blood, red blood, someone that wasn't hurt yet, someone that had just had that fire that may have been waning in ourselves because we had witnesses that we had been the victims so long. It's surprising those that fight the strongest can be those that perhaps were less hurt by these things, but were humiliated, just completely humiliated. The humiliation was too much. And people tend to fight against humiliation. The consequences they think about later.
What has been achieved by the uprising?
What was achieved? Everything was achieved. If it only had been this release, it would have been enough. We would have licked our wounds. We would have had to deal with the police, but we would have found ways because this is how we lived. We lived decades evading the police, defying the police, and we managed. I mean, even though there were many arrests, there were many people that were put away, and it was really a small number because we were very, very trained to deal with the situation. It was almost like being in the resistance, and it was a resistance. And we found ways to make that work, to make them at least suffer too a bit of the consequences. You know, that their plans so well drawn at the precinct didn't work.
And what is special about it for you today? That other generations have another life? Or can you explain it? What is it for you today?
Oh, for me today, I'm sharing the life these young people have. I'm not envious. I'm not thinking that they should go through what I went through. I wish they wouldn't. I wish nobody could. And that's the way I really feel. There's no point, although my life was exciting. But I think there's a Chinese proverb that says, beware of living in exciting times. Well, it's true. But nonetheless, they have another battle. And they're fighting it. And that's really important. They are also, and we all are, Stonewall veterans. And they're the veterans of tomorrow. And I can't help, when I go to the parade, not to look at the floats, which are disingenuous corporate things, but to look at the crowd and see that kind of happiness. Even early marches, we had that kind of happiness, but we didn't have that kind of confidence and calm. And I love that in young gay people. I love that they don't have to suffer. If they're suffering, it's because of something in life, and we all have to. And that's enough to deal with. No, we're free.
Cool. Would you say like Stonewall people are sort of a role model for what you can achieve by doing an uprising together? Are you like a role model for what you can achieve?
Well, yes, they say I'm a role model. I don't know why that really is so. I'm really a survivor. My longevity and my ability to tell a story has... The greatest fighters, the ones I admire most, are not here. And I have to speak for them. And that gives me a passion for speaking, which I normally don't have. But these voices, these amazing people are no longer here. And yet they were such great fighters. I saw them with my own eyes. Miss New Orleans, Congo Woman, all these queens, Dead Frog Jerry fighting. And these queens loved to fight. They didn't choose to fight, but they were not afraid of a fight. There was an expression they used, I don't stay hit. Meaning that if someone attacked them on the street, no matter what time of day, they just didn't take it. I was always admired that because my strategy was quite different. It was to evade these people, to continue on for the night, to have a night. They would want that too, but they would not shy away from a fight. And those are the people that gave me the courage, along with the adrenaline I have, to fight. And I think that because I couldn't go back to Stonewall the next day, I couldn't go back to the streets, not have been with them. So, brotherly love.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much.
Maybe we'll take
Yeah.
okay.
The street, at first, looked normal. It didn't have the wear and tear of a full riot. It seemed like it was going to be a protest. It seemed like it was going to be contained by ourselves, but it didn't. It spread. And the windows started smashing. And these were the shops we went to. These were the people we knew. Maybe gays had smashed that I didn't know them, but were new to Christmas Street. Or anger. But I don't think anyone that knew them did it, but it was happening. You could hear the glass smashing again and again, a constant rhythm. People were pushing each other into trees. The leaves were coming down. The garbage pails were burned. There was fires everywhere, a haze on the ground, and a hot, terrible, humid climate. A real, well, Christmas Street turned into a jungle. And it was survival of the fittest, the wittiest, whoever could do it. And it was also a need to express but survive. Taunt the cops but evade them. It was a very difficult job. It was done very well, handled very well. And it was handled because some people knew how to fight. And we had been trained with all these gay bashings, and all of us were in one or another or got away from one or another. These had made us urban guerrillas. All of it came to par. All of it came to a head that night. And we learned a great deal. And
Hang on a second. Ignacio, can you, or maybe it will work when he. Geht es noch? Gerade? You saw like at the end of that night, you saw the light. Can you tell us what were your feelings?
the end of the night was also the beginning of the next day. The sun had come in. We were exhausted. I was sitting on a stoop. I looked across. There was a queen sitting on a stoop, exhausted, with blood on her. She obviously had been in the fight. 6 feet away was a policeman, exhausted, leaning like a scarecrow on the fence, not arresting her, not bothering her. The sun came up slowly, and I looked at the street, and I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I never really noticed it, and now I could see it. It was starting to be deserted. The store windows were broken. The fires were being quenched, but still smoking. There was a haze on the ground. There was leaves everywhere. There was patches of blood here, there, and broken glass filling Crystal Street. It turned Crystal Street into a beautiful boulevard, a boulevard of diamonds. It was one of my favorite visions I had in life, except it came under such terrible circumstances. But beauty is beauty. You can't ignore it and turn your head away. And I left here with a heavy heart, waiting for more horrible things tomorrow. But things changed. It didn't come. This block the next day really looked like a battle had been fought. Boards, boarded up, people cautious, people worried, gays thinking, gays worried. But something changed. We were worrying about something different than we were worrying about on June 27th. We were worrying about trouble that came from our provocation. And it's different. It's so different to be in the driver's seat of your own problems.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Great, great. Thank you.